Good afternoon. Today is a special day for me because I have finally got this French horn back from being restored. A few months ago, or many months ago, I bought this French horn off eBay and it was in rubbish condition. Bits of the tubing were flattened, none of the valves worked, none of the tuning slides moved. It was a wreck of an instrument, but thanks to some of the generous donations that I've received on this channel, I've managed to find somebody and have them restore it for me, and here we go. This is a very interesting instrument for a number of reasons, but before we go into them, let me just say it is not perfect. The third valve, for instance, has a bit of a clunk to it, but it is playable now. It is a Josef Lidl brand instrument made in Brno, B-R-N-O, Czechoslovakia. And what makes it particularly interesting is the way that these valves are arranged. This instrument is a B-flat compensating French horn. Okay, it is quite different to other horns that you might get. There are compensating horns. They operate in a very different way to this. There are single horns, double horns, etc., etc. With a normal compensating French horn, and I'm going to get annoyed by the amount of times I accidentally whack the mouthpiece into my head, but a normal compensating horn would have your first three valves as normal, but those three valves would have two lots of tuning slides. You would have the first lot up the front, which were pitched in the key of B flat, and then you would have a second tier or story of tuning slides underneath, which when you use both lots together would put the instrument into the key of low F, which is the traditional key for French horns to be in. So you would have a fourth valve that would route the air back through that second tier of tuning slides if you wanted to use the French horn in that manner. And it's a slight difference to a true double French horn. A double French horn in the most common iteration has a side that is in F, so you've got the three valves and they've got the tuning slides attached to them in the key of F, and then behind that you've got a completely different set of tuning slides that are in the key of B flat, and you'll have a fourth valve that actuates between one and the other, so you don't use both at the same time. A double, a compensating French horn is slightly different when that second layer is quite small and you use both of them together in order to get that low F. On this instrument, however, we have a horizontal valve that I'm holding at 45 degrees. A horizontal valve, now it's horizontal, in the middle of the instrument, and it only has one side, it only has one tier of tuning slides for the instrument. So if we were to trace out what these do, we have our first valve here. Our first valve loop is normally there, okay, this loop of tubing here. When we actuate our fourth valve, which is done by using the thumb lever, as you can see the thumb lever moves this linkage here, we add an extra loop of tubing. There is a little extra loop of tubing that gets added to the first valve. So you have the first valve here normally, you press the fourth valve and you've got the first valve goes into here, has that little bit of extra tubing on the back and then out there. And it's the same with the second valve. The second valve normally just goes to this valve and then back up, but when you've got the fourth valve actuated, it goes to the valve here and then adds this little nipple of tubing and then back through, so that's the second valve there. The third valve is normally into here, then back out and around here, but when you actuate, the fourth valve goes into here, down here, and then out the rest of the third valve, so it's quite convoluted. And then you'll notice this little pathway here, that adds extra tubing to the whole instrument to bring the fundamental down. So it's effectively both a B flat and an F instrument, but it operates along the same principles as, say, a B flat F compensating euphonium, where you've still only got the three valves and the fourth valve merely adds tubing to that existing arrangement to bring it down into that key of F. The results of this is that you don't have to have two tiers of tubing in the valve section. But is it the best way to deal with this problem? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no with the full disclaimer that I don't have a lot of experience with true double French horns or with compensating French horns of the manner that I described before. I think this might be better than compensating 4-valve B-flat horns, but I don't think it's better than a true double horn, because with a true double horn you only use the first, second or third tuning slides once. You either use the front lot in the key of F or the back lot in the key of B flat. With this you use all of these valves all of the time, and then you also add extra loops onto it. So there's extra resistance, there's extra complexity, and there is a whole lot more chance for things to go completely belly up. And so this instrument, as exquisite as it is now in its restored condition, is not necessarily an easy instrument to play. The fourth valve actuates in quite an unnatural position. It's a fairly unusual angle, for at least as far as my hand goes. Maintenance on this instrument is abominable. The guy had to practically break it down into its constituent parts to be able to get at everything that he needed to get at. It doesn't have a water key on it. If you get water, you have to remove either the B flat side tuning slide here or the F tuning slide here and empty water out of it that way and then reassemble the instrument. That's not the most elegant way of doing it. None of the valve caps actually screw on all of the way. There's always just this little bit of exposed threading, which is kind of weird. But anyway, that is what this instrument is. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be able to play this in a group. The first valve tuning slide is far too flat. For this to be in tune, I would need to cut out some lengths of tubing here where the first valve joins in. I'd have to shorten these tubes in order to make the first valve properly in tune, but then you'd have the issue where the first valve tuning slide would bang against this tube here, so it's not very practicable. Some of the harmonics in the harmonic series are woefully out of tune. So when you play this instrument, even just standardly on the B flat side, you have to use a wide range of alternate fingering to actually get the notes so they're tolerably in tune. So effectively that's about this instrument in a nutshell. If there's any questions you've got about it or anything more that you would like to know, please ask them down in the comments below and I'll be pleased to assist. Thank you very much for those who gave their support towards making this restoration possible, and thanks very much for watching this video.